Podcast Network Asia.
What's going on? This is Xavier Woods, a.k.a. Austin Creed.
I said give me a hell yeah!
Hey, this is Zayda Zay.
Hello, WWE Universe in the Philippines. This is Charlotte.
Talent is not sexually transmitted.
You need to go back to the drawing board because your game absolutely sucks!
Hey everyone, this is Jeff Cobb.
I'm Lewis Howley. I'm Sam Spoker. We are pretty deadly. Yes, boy. Yes, boy.
Hello, my name is Ilya Dragunov, the Tsar, the NXT UK champion, and you're listening to the Wrestling Podcast.
You're watching and listening to the longest-running weekly episodic Filipino wrestling podcast. This is the Wrestling Podcast. Stancy, Romoran, and Emile ASH checking in for our weekly Thursday live stream. Yes, Ro is here. Naka-off lang yung camera niya. As always, he's looking for a virtual background fitting of whatever big things have happened this week. So while Ro's fixing that, Emile, how are you coming off of all of the content we've put out? Of course, yung 9th anniversary natin just happened last Sunday. So what was all of that like for you?
It was a very busy week for us. We dami nating last week I got the chance to meet two of the most incredible wrestlers that we have locally right now. So it was one of the best weeks siguro of me of my wrestling fandom. And then so dami namin content nilabas, daming interviews, and then the anniversary as well. Thank you again to all the people who went there, all the people who jammed with us and celebrating our 9 years sa Wrestling Podcast.
Thank you, by the way, dun sa mga sponsors natin. We gotta shout them out one more time. Crep Talk Cafe, Clyde and Chloe Coffee, and Meshwe Shawarma. Thank you so much.
Yung coffee, big hit siya. I mean, see Clyde and Chloe. I mean, Crep Talk was really good too, but Clyde and Chloe, surprise sleeper hit that a lot of people are raving about, actually.
Yeah, people have been posting about it on their IG stories and tagging us.
Great get, Chino, there.
Yes.
And my
Sige, go.
And my brother really, yung kapatid ko, he really loves the smell of those coffee, and actually tinay niya yun nung isang gabi, and really like that. So thank you again to our sponsor, the Clyde and Chloe, for such wonderful coffee.
Yeah, I just want to say to all of you who said na they were going to show up and then suddenly didn't show up, you missed out. Kasi for 200 pesos, we literally had a feast on our hands. We had so much food last Sunday that we didn't even know what to do with the rest of it.
Yeah, sobra yung food. I didn't even get to eat everything kasi I'm trying not to overeat, but sobrang sulit yung 200 nyo sana, di ba? And next time, when we say we are going to eat, when we say that when we eat, everyone eats, y'all better believe that everyone eats.
Oh, we mean it. We mean what we say. Let's say hi to some folks. Si Mon, tuning in from the other side of the world. Look at you.
Look at you, Mon.
Hey, Mon.
Traveling on the other side of the world. That's what you get for beating the PBA.
No. See, no. Mon, I believe, has moved to the other side of the world. He's not just traveling. Okay. Yeah. He just didn't. He didn't just beat the PBA. He beat the entire country of the Philippines by choosing to live a better life, like our friend Ken Warren.
So from that decision alone, you have already eclipsed all of us in life. You are a true winner, sir. Now it's up to our patrons, Aaron and Abby and Derv. A lot of our usuals already here on Facebook and on YouTube, where we are streaming for this evening. So before we get to our first piece of news, let's tell you about how you can be part of our growing Patreon community, especially for our listeners who might be finding out na meron tayong Patreon community for the very first time.
All right, so if you want to get the full Wrestling Podcast experience, all you can do is subscribe to our Patreon and help us out by subscribing to patreon.com/Wrestling Podcast, where you could subscribe for as low as $5. It's around 275 pesos in our local currency. You get a lot of perks when you subscribe to our Patreon. We got the Discord community where you can interact with your fellow podcasts, and you could talk to us about anything. Of course, you can always talk to us about wrestling, but not just that. You can also talk to us about fashion, memes, movies, sports, anything and anything you like. You could talk to us about it in our Discord community. And we also host some live watch parties of some pay-per-views and PLEs. So even though we just had the WrestleMania viewing party a month ago, that doesn't mean that we will stop having those live watch parties on our Discord. So if you want to join us there, you could subscribe to our Patreon. And also we have the Pasabais, which according to Stan here is malapit na dumating. We just had the last one no WrestleMania weekend. If you want to be a part of the next one, it will not be too far naman. No? So if you want to be a part of the next one, you want to get your authentic wrestling merch, WWE, AEW, and any other promotions, you could get it through us as well. And we also have the review content of the weekly wrestling shows like Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Dynamite, and some local wrestling events as well, which shout outs to Rowan. He has been doing a good job of reviewing the recent episodes of Action Event TV. So if you want to check that out, you could go to our Patreon, and by subscribing to our Patreon, you're supporting everything that we do here on the podcast. So please subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/wrestling podcast, where you can subscribe for as low as $5.
You know, si Emile gumagaling na sa ad reads. Let's say what's up to our good friend Kel Fabi, our benefactor for the undisputed WWE Championship belt that we got to flex last Sunday.
Yeah. Yung medyo napupunit na, medyo naghihingalo ng WWE Championship, the undisputed WWE Championship. One of my favorite world championships. So thank you for that, Kel. I asked him after he saw it if he didn't want it back yet. Ayaw pa niya.
All right, so I guess it is still on loan to the podcast for us to use. Emile, you mentioned the upcoming viewing parties. We actually posted a vibe check over on the Wrestling Podcast Facebook page for Night of Champions. That's happening May 27. That should be May 28 Philippine time kasi it will be in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. So alam naman natin, pag Saudi time yan, edi hating gabi, diba? Walang tulugan, master showman tayo dyan. So just comment on the page, either sa page namin or kay Galactic Shark, friend of the podcast, if you're interested in joining us for a watch party of Night of Champions. That way we'll know kung worth it bang mag-organize at mag-arrange ng viewing party for May 28 ng madaling araw. Alright? Now let's get our first piece of news. This one is from outside the ring, and because it concerns lawsuits and things that I would rather not get fired for, I'm going to be excusing myself from this next conversation.
Okay, so what we woke up to this morning, which was super bizarre, but also really warranted, I think. A former WWE writer named Brittany Abrahams, she sued WWE for really racist stuff. So she recounts a bunch of stories where the writers behind the scenes, if you don't know yet, WWE is helmed by a creative team on which Triple H is the lead, and then before that, Vince McMahon. So Brittany Abrahams was signed to WWE back in, I believe, the pandemic, around that time. And then she pretty much saw a lot of things go down, a lot of shitty things happen, namely a lot of racist behavior and ideas from fellow creative team members. So I don't have the specifics here. Emile, do you have the notes here from her complaint? Basta marami siyang kinuwento eh. Ang dami niyang kinuwento.
Yeah.
One of them involves Mansoor, an idea for Mansoor in which they wanted to have him be the perpetrator of 9/11, even though he would.
Yeah, that was really messed up.
Even though Mansoor would have been a literal child at the time. There were also some things where Bianca Belair was pitched to be a lot more ghetto than she is now. I believe that kind of happened a little bit, pero not so much. Tapos, I believe the idea to have Apollo Crews speak in his native Nigerian accent was also a thing that was pitched there. So basically, Britney is suing the WWE, suing Vince McMahon for a lot of racist stuff, a lot of racist behavior. It should be noted as well that I believe Britney is a black woman. That's why she was the lone, one of the lone black voices in that creative meeting, in that creative team rather. So, really interesting stuff. And to be honest with you, if you've been watching the WWE for as long as we have, especially me, naubutan ko pa yung tail end ng Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression Era, 20 years ago, where things were not as PC as it is now. And the way it is now is the way it should be, right? Let's make that clear. Now, I'm not here to diss how bad things were back then, but I mean, I'm not here to diss what's happening now. I'm here to diss how bad things were back then and how things still are, apparently, when it comes to white people and how they perceive other ethnicities and other nationalities and cultures. Diba? Yeah, Aaron's totally right. This isn't surprising because we literally did have Vince McMahon drop the N-bomb on
Oh my God.
15 or 16 years ago?
Yeah.
So this shit is honestly a long time coming. Vince should be taken to task for this culture, this environment, this social culture in which a lot of people are insensitive and remain that way because that's how they grew up. He should be held accountable for this. And I don't know where this lawsuit is going, honestly. I don't know how it's going to fare, but I will say, even if you work for the WWE, I do believe that you think deserve. What do you think, Emile?
Yeah, to be honest, hindi na ako nabigla ako na ngayon lang may nagsalita, may stand up against it. Because this has been, if like you said, if you've been watching WWE for the longest of time, you'd like, this is something that has happened so many times.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah, these horrible stereotypical gimmicks, not just with African American people, but all types of race. At least there's one specific stereotypical gimmick that I could honestly remember, like Muhammad Hassan. Like, that's like the ultimate example of this.
He wasn't even Arab. Yeah, he wasn't even Arab. The man is Italian.
Exactly. Santino Marella, although he was kind of funny, but still, it was kind of the stereotypical gimmick of someone who's Italian. And who else can forget about Crime Time, diba? Like, the perception of African American people, young African American people acting like that.
They fucking had Chavo Guerrero change his entire name and ethnicity, and had him say, "If it ain't white, it ain't right." Those are things we're not making this up. If you're listening to the podcast right now, and then you're kind of new to wrestling, and then you're thinking now, how ridiculous are these things that Ro and Emile are saying, and all of this can't be true. I'm telling you, friends, this is true, and a lot of people in the chat right now know, because this has been a part of our childhood, and embarrassingly so.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know what will happen with this lawsuit, honestly, because it's against WWE, and sobrang dami ng lawsuits na lumabas over the last year or so, and di natin alam kung ano yung kinalabasan nun. But if yung goal nito is to raise awareness na WWE is like this, I think may awareness din naman yung mga tao na they've been like that for quite a while.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's actually a good point that you bring up, Emile. Everyone knew, even black fans knew, non-white fans knew how bad things are, pero the entertainment side always won out in the end, because syempre, as you know, cancel culture isn't really real until there are actual legit repercussions that come with it. So that's why I said I don't know how this lawsuit will fare and what it will ultimately accomplish. Because if the sexual harassment lawsuits weren't enough to take Vince down for good, but he's fucking back, right? If those things weren't enough to destroy Vince McMahon, I am not entirely sure this would, especially in an era where a lot of white people, a lot of Americans have pretty much doubled down on a lot of behavior, even though there's a lot of awareness on what things are problematic. So, yeah, you're right. It's nice that somebody is standing up for this. I fully support it. I just do not know how it's going to shake out. But again, as the chat is showing, this is nothing new. We all know this, and it's kind of actually pretty sad that this is kind of normalized for all of us. Pero,
Yan na nga, no?
I don't know. What kind of thing? I don't know. We need an American legal expert here, kasi, to really explore what kind of consequences the WWE is really facing here, or Vince McMahon, or whoever is really facing here. I'll be honest with you. I have not read up on the complaint. I don't know what the complaint is seeking. Kasi usually pag may nagreklamo sa korte, there's usually a request for something. For this, I don't think you can send Vince to jail for being racist. You could probably. I don't know. I remember now. She's suing for wrongful termination as well, because they fired her because the official reason was, again, wrongful termination, as said by Carlo Elijah. Yeah, thank you, Carlo. She was fired kasi raw she took home a WrestleMania chair, even though the white writers, the white male writers rather, were taking home WrestleMania chairs with no problem. So there is some discrimination there, and I support this. I fully support this this lawsuit by Brittany Abrahams. You go get that back, girl.
Yes.
Anything else you want to add, Emile?
Like we pretty much said like everything.
Glendale brings up a good point. Isn't racism also a thing in other wrestling companies? LAX is a bad example because LAX is, I believe, their own creation ng mismong members ng LAX. Like sina Conan, the original LAX, sina Conan, sina Hernandez. That was their thing. But you're right in that racism has been a big thing in wrestling because, traditionally, old white guys, or mostly white guys, a lot of southern white guys have been the foundations of the pro wrestling business. And a lot of stories have come out over the decades on how the business has been discriminatory over the years, over history, and in some ways it still kind of is. WWE is not exempt from any of these accusations, or rather, other companies are not exempt from these accusations if they have been displaying pretty racist behavior. So WWE just happens to be the biggest fish in that particular sea. So I believe if something happens to WWE, it should be happening. Other companies would follow suit because other companies would see now. Okay, you can't do this anymore. It's 2023 Anno Domini, and this shit just does not fly. That should be the intended fallout for this entire controversy. So anything else, Emile?
You pretty much said everything, man.
All right. So I think we can move on and bring Stan back to the feed. Babyface producer. I think Mike. Do we have Mike on here? That's Jasper. Babyface producer Jasper.
Yeah.
Let's proceed to the next slide and bring Stan back.
All right. Let's talk about the new WWE World Heavyweight Championship, which Triple H introduced on Raw. And I just want to appreciate how he had an announcement, but they just went right into it instead of hyping up the announcement for days and days on end, if you know what I mean. So the World Heavyweight Championship has been introduced, and it kind of looks like the big gold belt, diba? It's it does resemble it. I myself love the big gold belt. It's my favorite championship. So even though we're not getting the actual big gold belt, I'm okay with this. Rumor has it that Seth Rollins is Triple H's leading candidate. Yun yung sabi-sabi sa mga kaibigan nating dirt sheets. So what do you guys think about the design? Who do you think should be the first champion? Let's get it out there.
Emile, go muna.
Yeah. I'm gonna go first with the design. No? Obviously, it was inspired with the big gold belt, but they really can't replicate the big gold belt anymore because I think someone owns it, the intellectual property of it.
No, they own the intellectual property. It's just that Conrad owns the actual last belt.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, so there. But I hindi ko talaga trip yung WWE logo sa middle. Eh. Like I get it. It's for the sake of branding, but I think for me they could have done a better job of incorporating the logo on the title. Kasi para siyang big dark pimple. You know. And I actually saw a picture where yung may logo ng WWE but it looked better kasi the colors kind of mixed in with yung harap nung belt, which is much better yon. And but you know what, it's a first design, maybe they'll change it again sometime soon. And for me, I have mixed feelings about the introduction of a new title kasi they should have had they should have had two titles already. They should have had Roman lose the other one, pero nandito na tayo kasi this one magbumukha talaga na they just created this title because there's no one who could take one or both of the belts from Roman. So the idea of having that second title is parang mixed siya for me. Siguro depende na rin on who wins the title first. So but for me, this title is like a consolation prize for for being good but not good enough to beat Roman.
Yep. You hit it right on the head. First, the design, ugly as fuck. Super ugly. Literally, I mean, okay, fine. WWE logo on top of the big gold belt, sure. Sige. Pagbigyan ng client. But the execution is so bad. Emile called it a pimple. I call it a giant gaping asshole. This is the big gape. The big gape on the big gold. There is another design execution that makes the globe gold and then the logo white. That is so much better, and I don't understand why they did not go with that. It's just so bad. And the plate doesn't look as big as the big gold center plate, so it's not even the big gold. It's a medium gold. So it's just so. What is this? It's so bad. It's okay. I guess it's the only plus point it has. It's that it's not another colorway of the WWE Championship design. So yeah. So that's at least what it has going for it. It's something that they try to do something differently. As for the actual creative implications of it, Emile again is right. The two championships that Roman should have has right now should have been split by someone who is actually the champion, or instead do what I proposed before this. Have Adam Pearce legitimately separate the two championships. Give one to SmackDown, give one to Raw. It's not that hard. It's not that hard to think about because. Otherwise, just bringing out a new championship because Roman Reigns cannot be beaten literally is a consolation prize, talagang there's no way to get around it talaga because it is God. It's they literally said, even though they clowned Roman in the two segments, it's just we can't beat him. We also can't take the championships off him. So here you go. Here is a new toy for you to play with. So you pay nakagago. Like Triple H was making all these jokes about Roman, but in the end, the joke is on him because he couldn't be asked to take the championships off Roman. So who are you really making fun of when you make fun of the champion? So what the hell, dude? Alright, tapos there's a rumor that Cody is the first in line for this. That's gonna look even worse for Cody because there is an admission that Cody can't beat Roman, so Cody's gonna get this 1B championship because this is the story. This is his destiny. And then as Cody fans, is this really what you want? That he be handed, even though he wins a hard-fought match at Backlash against whoever. Is that really what you want for your boy?
So if not Cody Cino, who would you line up to win this championship?
That's a good question. I initially said that whoever should be the first champion should not be anyone who Roman has faced and beaten for the championship in the past few years. But I believe that Seth really is the guy for it. I think Seth makes a really great case to be the guy, to be the first champion. That promo he did, no, it was really babyface fire for the whole thing, and he must make cliche to make fun of Roman than Triple H, and I believe him when he says he's a champion, or he could be a champion who could defend that thing whenever he wants, way more than Roman Reigns ever does right now, diba? So he's my guy. If he could, I would give it to Gunther as well, because even though it's going to be a second final boss for whatever other brand there is, I think he deserves it as well. He's going to be Roman light, legit. I'll be honest with you, but Gunther is a lot more fun to watch. So yun. Those are my two picks. Finn, I would take Finn as well, but even though
Finn got beat, diba?
Yeah, Finn got beat, but God technically beat Finn, not Roman. So there's that. Okay lang. But not Cody, because if you want the big Cody moment, this isn't it. All the more that this isn't it, just because you are itching for a big championship win, big world championship win for your boy.
So are you saying that Cody not winning at WrestleMania was a failure?
So he puts money on his table. He puts food on his table for his kids.
Because Cody will say that was a step to success. Diba? He's gonna pull a Giannis on you.
Yeah.
Babalik na yan sa'yo.
Oh. I didn't ask that. You asked if it was a failure. I didn't ask him. I wanted him to make it a rebuilding, a motivation to rebuild for next year.
Step to success. Ikaw, Emile, sinong bet mong maging first champion?
First of all, it has to be, I will agree with you, it has to be someone away from the Roman universe, or everyone who's involved in that. There should be someone from the outside, and for me, I think siguro Gunther, but he's still the IC champ. So I also agree with you. It has to be either Seth or Gunther. Yun yung acceptable for me, kasi hindi siya magmumukhang consolation prize. Kasi Seth, matagal na, he hasn't faced Roman in a long time. And Gunther hasn't really interacted with the bloodline at all since he came to the main roster. So those two are also the acceptable pick for me.
All right. Appreciate everybody leaving their bets to win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship in the chat. We'll be crowning a new champion in exactly 1 month at Night of Champions. So again, let us know if you want to join us for a watch party live at a sports bar at 12 midnight or 1 a.m. on March 28.
Yep.
In the meantime, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the potential for single brand PLEs and CM Punk reportedly being backstage at Raw in Chicago. But first, a quick word from our other podcasts on Podcast Network Asia. All right, sagutin natin tong question muna ni Leo. He asks, what if they're doing a remake of the Hard Times storyline with Cody being in Dusty's place? That's actually kind of hard to do because if you know the actual context of Hard Times, it came with yung economic recession of the US in the 80s. So that promo by Dusty Rhodes is very much rooted in what reality they were living in. Now, granted, it's not like the economy's in a much better place in 2023, but the way that Cody does his promos doesn't really reflect yung struggle of the lower income American. So it's kind of hard to do that. I recommend that you watch yung A&E biography ni Dusty Rhodes for you to have the full context of the Hard Times promo, because the Hard Times promo is really just a promo that's part of a larger storyline with Ric Flair.
Yeah, no, I think what Leo means is that, the Hard Time story is that, like Kel said, it's a setback as a setup for a comeback, diba? So if that's what he means, then yeah, sure, it's pretty much exactly what they're doing. Because Cody is eating his L's, diba? But, he has to win against Brock for that to still be a legitimate thing, diba?
Yeah.
If he takes an L for Brock, that World Heavyweight Championship won't even save him. So there's that.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about the possibility of single-branded PLEs making a comeback. We last saw this nung nag-brand split nung 2016. And it ran for about a couple of years before WWE went back to bringing everyone together for the PLEs. So, what do you guys think about this? Do you like having single-branded PLEs? And is this something that could be sustainable if, for example, we're going to have them every 2 or 3 weeks ulit like yung last stretch ng run na yun?
Yes, I like single-branded PLEs, not just because I grew up on them back 20 years ago, but because this is the way to give exposure rather to everyone on your roster. People are really suffering from a lack of exposure, especially if you're on the mid card. Triple H is now doing, especially now that Triple H is doing 5 or 6 matches a pay-per-view, a PLE. So if that is the game plan, if that is the approach to PLEs, then all the more you should be putting on single brand PLEs kasi nabawasan talaga yung amount of matches that you'll get in one card, diba? Not like when Vince was sticking 7 to 8 matches every month, diba? So the best way to do it is how we had it when we were growing up. Single brand PLEs, rotate, alternate each month until you get to the big 4 or big 5. And let the stories play out instead of trying to cram them within 3 or 4 weeks. So that is the optimal setup. And I think, this is me totally spitballing here, but I think Triple H liked it, how they did it back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, back in his prime, no? Ikaw, Emile, what do you feel about this one? Kasi when Rose set it up na you'll have alternating months, kunwari Raw PLE, SmackDown PLE, diba? So Raw could go 2 months between premium live events. Is that something that you would like as a viewer?
Yes, actually, that if they're gonna do the single brand pay-per-views or PLEs, that's the way I want it to be executed. Hindi yung gaya ng 2016 na in 1 month there's two pay-per-views, one for Raw and one for SmackDown. Kasi that was a time where every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks may tayong pay-per-view, and the stories doesn't get told enough on TV kasi there's always another pay-per-view na in a month or in a few weeks. So saka ever since Triple H took over, the quality of PLEs has gone up because sobrang spread out na ng mga PLEs these days. Like we didn't have a PLE since from Survivor Series until Royal Rumble, so that was like a good 2-month span, and ang daming stories na that they were able to tell. And the Royal Rumble PLE is one of the best Royal Rumble PLEs that we had in a while because they had that long build up to it. They were able to tell a lot of stories. They were able to spotlight a lot of people. So if they're gonna do it, they should stick to having like what Will said. Like for example, this month Raw, next month SmackDown, then alternate, and then Big 4, and then do it all over again. So.
Sige, pag ganun, you have your big 4, but I would argue na Money in the Bank, you kind of have to make that a dual-branded show because of the nature of Money in the Bank. So that kind of makes Money in the Bank your big 5.
Yeah, yun naman yung pinupush nila eh. I mean, like, sige, I can buy it. I can see them making fetch happen there. So okay lang naman siya. I do think, we should actually replace Survivor Series. Again, I'm ringing that bell. I'm banging that drum. Survivor Series can get the fuck out of here.
Wow. All right, let's move on to CM Punk and yung reports from this past week that he was backstage at Raw in Chicago. So, ang sabi-sabi is that he just wanted to talk to The Miz and Triple H, presumably to just squash beef with The Miz. Meron ding reports na nagsabi na Punk wanted to speak with Triple H, tapos magpapaalam lang daw muna kay Vince, and that hindi naman nanggulo si Punk, but security had to escort him out when Vince was told na Punk was there. Parang on Vince's orders daw na pinaalis si Punk from the venue. So, what do you make of all of this, Emile? Kasi it's kind of weird to hear about Punk being backstage at a WWE event, diba? Of all places.
I think for me, it was simply a visit from Punk. Pero because his visit was nothing malicious. He didn't intend on wreaking havoc there, but because of the history and because he was basically a persona non grata in WWE because of all the lawsuits that happened before and all that. It seemed like the higher ups were alerted na, oh, Punk is here. Like, what are we gonna do? Because we all know the history of Punk, but I really don't think it should be a bigger deal than it was. He was just there to visit some friends. Because as far as I know, AEW wrestlers also do that. Also, if they have friends who are in town working for WWE, they would go there and visit them. Like Ricky Starks did during I don't
and
know
he got shit for that. So
WrestleMania.
it's not exactly a thing that is super 100% accepted.
Yeah, if anything, yung parang
wala-
pinaka-acceptable lang is when the spouses attend ceremonies like the Hall of
Yeah.
Fame, diba? Like when Malachi Black was there, I believe Buddy Murphy was also at the Hall of
Andrade.
Fame. Andrade was also at the Hall of Fame. So I think that's where they kind of draw a very soft line.
Yeah, pero I don't think this is something na it's a big deal. Like he just went there.
Okay.
Maybe it's
Sure. Ikaw, Ro, do you think there's something bigger here at play?
No, I don't think so. I believe the story na okay, nakasabay na yung mga WWE guys at sa flight niya, and he just wanted to say hi. But I do want to address this question that Kel said in the chat. It seems like he's mellowing down. No, I don't believe that. I don't think he's mellowing down. I think he's choosing who to mellow down to. I feel like he was warm and approachable and friendly with the WWE side because he is fed up with the AEW side. Kasi after all, these are the AEW people were the people he did call children after all, diba? And, going by a few stories about the AEW locker room, it does feel like WWE is the more adult place to work in. It seems that way, from the outside looking in. So I wouldn't put it past Punk to choose and pick who to be kind to. I don't think that he grew out of his being a bitter old man. That's just it. I don't think that it. I think may konting ulterior motive ng konti. I do kind of buy the fact that he was testing the waters, or the speculation rather that he was testing the waters for a potential return to WWE. Kasi if Triple H was in charge of creative, I do think if I were Punk, I would give that a shot. Diba? Kasi it wouldn't be as insane as the big guy. All
right, let's go inside the ring here and talk about our boy Bad Bunny, who made his return on Raw and challenged Damian Priest to a San Juan street fight at Backlash. So hindi na siyang host, he's actually going to be on the card. But what surprised virtually all of us is the fact that we're not getting a tag team match between Damian Priest and Dom versus Bad Bunny and Ray. It's a straight up singles match. So Ro, what do you think about Bad Bunny in a street fight?
Yeah, judging by the way he was swinging that kendo stick, I'm all for it. Have you seen it? It legit. I think I heard Priest cry out for real because
he was laying it in.
He was laying it in. He was getting whacked in the back for real. Parang walang preno yung paghataw niya. It's like this is some unnamed fraternity around here.
Parang ihihizing si Damian Priest.
So if Benito here could understand the assignment like that, I think we are in for a good street fight at Backlash in Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm. Ikaw, Emile.
I really thought this would be a tag match, like yun yung rumors, yun yung usap-usapan heading into Backlash. But I guess the stipulated gimmick match involving a celebrity like Bad Bunny isn't all that bad. Kasi, we all know Bad Bunny isn't really a regular wrestler. Although he can with the proper people, and I think Damian Priest is he can carry Bad Bunny into a really great match. Plus, it's a street fight, so may stipulation may hook to the people who's gonna watch it. Na you see we have a celebrity here that's gonna compete in a street fight, not just a regular wrestling match. So, yun pa lang, like it can sell it. I don't know if Backlash already sold out, but after the announcement of this match, I'm not gonna be surprised if the PLE in Puerto Rico suddenly sold out because they're gonna see Bad Bunny in single section this time.
Yeah, I'm super hyped for this. I can't wait to call it. We're getting Benito in a one-on-one match on a WWE PLE, and we are all the winners here. Now, sticking with Raw, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, yung next chapter ng story nila now that they're champions, looks like there's already some tension just 3 weeks into their reign. And I want to reference your review of Raw on our Patreon page, Ro, where you mentioned that there could be another turn on the horizon here for one of these two.
Yeah, kasi these things are telegraphed now in the age of Triple H. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just that when they do something or when they start something and plant those seeds, there is usually a follow through, which is why I got this feeling of dread that they're gonna break up this team again sooner or later. Because they've been riding Kevin Owens to be a bit more of a hothead lately since they won the championships. Medyo weird nga siya actually na nag-shift in behavior a little bit after WrestleMania. So there's that. Leo, I don't think they're gonna hot potato the tag team championships. I don't think the Usos are gonna win this because they are, again, when I said that they started something, they are really following through with that, and I think they're following through with the Usos splitting from the bloodline. We've seen the teases, the Paul Heyman little bits of acting, the promos, as always, that have been happening since before WrestleMania. So it's really important to the story that the Usos lose this championship match not about Friday or next week?
Yeah, Saturday, Manila time.
Saturday, this week. So I wouldn't be worried about that, which is why I'm worried about the breakup again, the whatever heel turn it's going to be. So yun lang naman. It's something that you can't take out of the equation completely.
Yeah, because they keep talking about the breakup, the potential for KO to be true to his nature and to stab Sami in the back, or maybe even vice versa. So, Emile, are you buying this right now? Do you think na KO or Sami will turn on the other?
No. It is just too soon for another KO heel run, and turning on Sami is going to be so predictable.
No, I'm sorry, Emile, to cut you off, but I want to counter that and say that they're actually writing it sensibly, which is why I'm scared. They have been writing it sensibly because Kevin Owens is understandably upset with Sami for still trying to reach out to Jey Uso at the very least, diba? So, if you were Kevin Owens, you'd probably be upset as well, diba? If your friend was still trying to talk to his ex-friend that isn't really a good dude, and has made his choice and has chosen the bed to lay in. That's the story that, again, you have seemed to miss.
Kasi this goes back to before Mania, where we asked ourselves, should KO even accept Sami back? Kasi after that, parang bigla na sila nagbate, and then their issues.
Nagbate sila?
Yeah, okay. Wala ako doon.
Yeah,
no. And then
wala na, na-distract na si Emile. Wala na.
Yung issues nila, hindi pa na-sort out. Like, they just made up, and that's it. They moved on. They won the tag team title. So at this point, clearly, there's still something. Yeah, like, okay, I agree with bro. May issues pa doon eh.
Socratic method you.
Wala na, you dropped the ball, Emile. I should call you Grayson Allen now.
Oh, pero I think this is just a bump on the road, and they will retain their titles and their friendship at the end.
I would hope so. I'm right. I mean, like, yun nga, diba? When they do something, there's usually something else that follows, which is the scary thing, in a good way, I guess, of the Triple H regime.
Yeah, if anything, with this particular story, they're not very subtle anymore. You can kind of tell where they're going, right? So I guess there's medyo valid naman yung concern heading into the next chapter of KO and Sami's arc. Right, let's talk about the draft. It's coming up. It actually starts in a couple of days. So since this goes up on Spotify tomorrow, may time pa tayo. Let's call our shot. Where is Roman Reigns going?
SmackDown.
No. It's easy to say SmackDown, but I did read a rumor about how this is gonna go. USA NBC wants the Bloodline, so
Damn.
they have been appearing on Raw a lot more recently, relatively recently. So I would not be surprised if Raw takes Roman Reigns with the number 1 pick.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are there any teams that you want to see split up? Kasi, di ba, yun yung isa sa mga storylines heading into the draft. Which teams are going to be split up? Which, to me, it's kind of silly if you split up KO and Sami Zayn. So I wouldn't do that. But on the Masked Man show, they were toying with the idea of taking Jay with 1 pick and leaving Jimmy Uso in the free agent waiver wire and then snapping him up kasi people are like, anong gagawin ko kay Jimmy Uso? So medyo disrespectful, medyo weird. So kayo, which tag teams do you want to split up?
I'm agreeing with Carlo here sa chat. I would want to see, even though I do want to keep them together, I do want to see Montez and Docs split up. I think that they are great additions to both mid-card scenes, divisions, and I think medyo nag-scratch na rin sila ng ceiling nila as tag team champions, especially when you have the Usos and Sami and Kevin Owens at holding down that tag team division. And if you're not going to split the tag team championships as well.
Right. Ikaw, Emile, who do you want to split up?
Ito what if the Bloodline gets split up? And I'm not talking about the Usos. For example, Adam Pearce is so fed up with all the Bloodline BS. Now he uses the draft or Adam Pearce or anyone, Adam Pearce pala. So what if he uses the draft to take away Solo Sikoa from the rest of the Bloodline? I know they're not a team, but they're considered a team. By putting him on another show than the rest of the group, Roman and the Usos. Kasi if you've been noticing the last few defenses ni Roman, Solo is really like that X factor, we saw it at Mania. Like Solo came back and Roman was able to win. So I think this move will further the storyline of yung demise ng Bloodline. So that's something that iniisip ko last time. Like, what if?
I don't think they're gonna use the draft to contribute to the breakup of the Bloodline. Parang medyo to me, it doesn't hold much water. Kasi as Glendale points out, Paul Heyman can easily just politic his way for the Bloodline to remain intact.
Yeah, Roman would want the Bloodline together, to the point of, I guess, coercing Adam Pearce. Diba?
I mean, he got himself the part-time schedule even in kayfabe. So who's to say he can't advocate for the Bloodline to remain together?
All right, that's fair. I'm just fantasy book.
Yeah. Tawag dun. I want to go back to what Kel said. He prefers that the Profits split without the feud. Yeah, actually, I do want them to get the New Day split.
Yes.
So you just draft them, and they're not gonna fight. They just happen to be drafted separately.
Yeah. You give them that moment of shock na they go their separate ways, and then just leave it there. No. Any call-ups that you're anticipating aside from Pretty Deadly? Because I think everyone and their mother's already calling for Pretty Deadly to get called up.
Tyler Bate. Zoe Stark. Tyler Bate and Zoe Stark.
Ilya Dragunov.
Ilya as well, yes.
Yeah.
Ilya is a good choice.
That's the one name I want, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
See,
Sana Carmelo, pero, cannot be.
Champion.
Yeah, Cameron Grimes hasn't been seen on TV in months, so sabi ni Leo, he might debut on either brand. That's a good call right there.
Yeah.
Biggest shakeup you want to see coming out of the draft?
NXT. I want to see more main roster guys relegated back to NXT.
Is that a possibility that NXT says, I'm going to pick insert random mid-carder here?
I don't think they are going to be part of the draft because it's main roster stuff only, and then NXT pool is eligible for main roster call-ups. But I do hope the merong system na, okay, for the guys we didn't get to draft, NXT will claim you back down.
Damn. That's harsh.
Parang G-League, no?
That's harsh. Okay, ikaw, Emile. Biggest shakeup you want to see?
Parang G-League, yun.
Yeah.
G-League contracts.
Two-way contract. Emile, your biggest shakeup? Or yun na yun, yung solo getting separated?
Yeah, that was actually what I had in mind.
Okay. No worries. So yeah, let's take one more break. After that, we'll talk about AEW, that Roderick Strong debut, and MJF's tweet, which he subsequently took down in like less than a day. But first, a quick word from our other podcasts on Podcast Network Asia. Let's get to the audio-only part and start with Chavo Guerrero making some noise on Twitter. Apparently, he was working heel lang daw, pero the reason why he made noise to begin with is he was calling out Rey Mysterio for supposedly continuing to profit off of Eddie Guerrero's name and memory. So, about a day later, when people started responding, sabi niya, I still got it, or something along the lines of, you all got worked, without really saying it in those words. So, Emile, what does that tell you, or what do you feel about Chavo taking this time to work us all on social media?
Like, ang ano ko lang doon is bakit? Kasi it's not even a wrestler in any company. So, yung worked heel na yon, sobrang funny sa akin.
Okay. Should have asked me first because I actually have context for this.
Yeah.
This whole thing started because Chavo got interviewed, I believe, on a podcast or somewhere.
On a podcast.
He got interviewed and he made comments about Rey, about those things, about Rey using the Guerrero name. And those comments were so over the top na sobrang halatang-halata na he was working.
Yeah.
He talked about Rey. He talked about coaching Dom for Rey. He talked about Rey using the Guerrero name. So all of those things he touched on in that interview. And because of the way he spoke, because coming from the quotes that the aggregators took from the interview, I knew that he was working. And then he tweeted that because there was the interview. It was a follow-up to that. And without that context, people didn't quite get that he was just fucking around with everyone else. So, ang hirap nun eh. It's hard to work when not everyone knows you're working and when people are not aware or they're not in that environment where they would take what you were saying as a work, it's really a mess on Chavo's side. It just wasn't, he just ended up working himself into a shoot, which ended up shooting back into a work. So, yun talaga yan. It's unfortunate, but I believe that it was a work, and a lot of people just did not because they did not know that context.
Medyo messy lang yung execution.
Yeah, ironically though, I know a bunch of real life heels who would go back and fall back to that excuse. Oh, work lang, brother. Just working. Character work lang yun.
The sad part is we were among those people at some point.
Yeah. No, I won't say that we were not part of that. But sa akin naman, when I was working as a heel, I really was working as a heel. I intended to work as a heel, Other people kasi were trying to pass off real life heat as character heat, as kayfabe heat, diba? So that's the bad part. You don't want to be doing that,
Yeah, so note to aspiring wrestlers listening to this podcast. If you want to be a heel, there is a time and place for you to be a heel.
Yeah,
exactly.
All right, moving on to other stuff from outside the ring. So,
Stan?
Oh yeah,
yung pagkolatang doon sa mga tributes kay Eddie. I just want to say something about it. I don't think there's anything wrong with the tributes. I mean,
no, I know Chavo doesn't think there's anything wrong with that. He literally was just working.
Like, it's just paying respect to a wrestler who influenced a generation of wrestling fans. It's like players, like NBA players now paying their tributes to Kobe. I mean,
sorry. Are you done? I have something to say for that. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay,
go ahead.
It's like yung mga NBA players today, they're paying tributes to Kobe. Nung final, si Jason Tatum, he kept, on channeling his inner Kobe by paying tributes to the man. And there's nothing wrong about that. Wala namang sinabi yung Bryant family that they don't like those. So it's just paying respects. And I think, in the future naman, tributes will still keep on coming because Eddie was such a huge figure in the wrestling world.
Well, Jason Tatum isn't making money off of Kobe, diba? Not like how the Latino World Order literally use the fucking same Viva La Raza drop from Eddie's theme song, which I now believe is borderline crossing the line here.
Oh, why? This is probably going to be a hot take, pero why? Because I like it. I love hearing the Viva La Raza drop.
But we associate it with the following
Eddie.
strands of Lie, Cheat, and Steal. That song, we expect that to come after that Viva la Raza. I don't mind using the phrase Viva la Raza. Just don't use that particular drop from the same song, because I am conditioned like a Pavlovian dog to believe that Eddie is coming out or someone is coming out in a fucking lowrider. So
unfortunately, an entire generation of wrestling fans is not conditioned the same way you and I are.
Yeah, they are. No, they are. Our age of wrestling fans.
Our age, yes. But yung mga age ni Rowan, you think they're conditioned that way?
Yun na nga. So if you are gonna use, if you're gonna pay tribute to Eddie, who is the founder of the LWO, it should be mentioned. I don't think anyone mentioned that on commentary, by the way. Okay. Sige.
Michael Cole has. Several times, mind you.
Ayun, all right. No. After that entrance,
yes,
from last week,
yes,
this week, but sorry. All right, that's good. You can pay tribute to that. I just wish they recorded something new with either Ray and / or Santos. Diba? Like, why couldn't you just? You're still paying tribute to the guy who founded the LWO. You're just using a completely different drop. It would evoke the same feeling. It's just that it's not the same drop that it's used in a really, really classic theme song.
Petition to have Zelina Vega record Viva la Raza in the sultriest voice possible.
Yes, I am all for that. It's just not use the classic, iconic, legendary drop. Because when I hear that, I expect Eddie to come back from the dead. Or Chavo, at least. Chavo. Diba?
Okay.
I mean,
Chavo and Ray are the only people who get to use that.
Yeah, using that line once is okay. Nung ginamit ni Ray nung WrestleMania, that was completely perfectly okay.
No, the line as recorded. As recorded that way.
Yeah. Pero yung gagamitin siya every week, nah. That's too much for me.
Ako up in the air pa yung stand ko on this, and I'm gonna wait till I hear it again on SmackDown before I make an opinion. Because like the first time, I'm like, oh, okay, this is new, sure. So nasa wait and see mode pa ako.
Okay, I mean, fine. Okay sana if they use the original, Eddie's original themes. Again, yung papagbigyan ko pa, even though it's not obviously Eddie. Kasi I believe that drop should be attached to that theme.
Okay, all right. So yeah, let's move on to this next bit of news. Jagger Reed and Rip Fowler, a.k.a. James Drake and Zach Gibson. I was about to say James Reed, Jesus. The GYV, or the Dyad, they've announced on Twitter that WWE has denied their request for a release. Sabi nila na their contracts run out this October, and then after that, the following day, they'll announce the next step in their pro wrestling journey. However, on NXT this week, Joe Gacy was advocating on behalf of the Dyad for an NXT Tag Team Championship match, to the point that challenged niya si Joe Coffey to a one-on-one match where if Joe Gacy were to win, then the Dyad are the next #1 contenders to Mark Coffey and Wolfgang's Tag Team Championships. What do you guys make of all this?
Okay, as someone who, understands that finer point because of, actual will you stay or will you go decisions, right?
Right.
One, I think the GYV is trying to get themselves fired by actively airing publicly their grievances about, hindi naman grievance, pero their next
their
career
contract
move,
status,
by literally breaking kayfabe by saying we're not going anywhere, but we're going somewhere else after this date. So, there's that. So that, I think, is them daring management to fire them. As for what's happening on NXT TV, I think that it's both a way to rub it in their faces now. Okay, we're not going to let you go, and you're going to be stuck with this dyad gimmick that you may probably not want for a long time. But on the other hand, it's also a way for them to kind of stay, because okay, maybe this tag team championship opportunity and possibly a tag team championship reign would get you to stay. But if I were to die, that wouldn't be enough for me. Because what is that? I mean, like, it's just another NXT tag team championship. The grizzled young veterans have been one of the longest running NXT UK tag team champions ever. What is that NXT tag team championship to me? Diba? As someone who is literally a grizzled young veteran. Diba? Either you fucking move me up to the main roster and pay me main roster money, or you get rid of this ridiculous cult gimmick. Diba? So I think that's the main reason why they wanted to go. So I guess because of that, they're leaning toward it's leaning toward the reverse. Kofi Kingston is leaning toward the NXT management just getting them to stay out of spite. Parang pinupush to out of spite. That's a weird concept, by the way.
It's the first time that's ever crossed my mind, so that's kind of odd. Emile, if the GYV or the Dyad get called up to the main roster, how do you think they'll fare?
Honestly, I don't see any great potential with the Dyad in the main roster. Kasi, I don't know, they haven't really clicked on me yet sa NXT. Eh. So
what if they were the GYV?
Oh,
because the GYV had a really weird gimmick that doesn't work if you're outside the UK.
No din kasi the tag team division as it isn't like walang potential for any new tag teams to outshine the Usos and those the Sami and KO, the Street Profits. So if they were JYB, they're pretty much gonna be dead in the water if they jump to the main roster as a GYB.
Right, yeah. You have a point there, Ro, nung sinabi mo na yung gimmick nila is only really tailored to a very specific audience, diba? Like when Zach Gibson comes out and does the promo and are soon to be recognized as the blah, 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 blah.
Parang Liverpool's, diba? Liverpool's
yes,
number one.
Liverpool's number one,
yes.
That's right. Like no one really cares about Liverpool's number one outside of the UK or maybe even Liverpool. And I'm sorry to say that because I'm actually a fan of the GYV.
Yeah,
so
me too. No, me too. I agree.
That.
And Zach Gibson did train our boy Carlos Zamora.
Yeah. So I don't know. I only wish the best for James Drake and Zach Gibson, however you want to call them. I just want to see them succeed, really. Speaking of tag teams who are supposedly getting called up, let's talk about Pretty Deadly right here. Because they were killed off on NXT. And when you think about it, Tony D is a serial killer. He offed 2 dimes, and now he's off Kit Wilson and Elton Prince.
No, it's not a serial killer. He's literally a mafioso, and they're sticking to that character talaga. Kasi what do mafia gangsters do? Diba? They eliminate.
People.
Yeah, they off people. They eliminate their competition, make them sleep with the fishes. It is what it is. So it's weird. I guess it's weird na they just they're still sticking to this over the top character, even though Tony D has already himself evolved beyond that.
Yeah, like he actually cares about other people now other than himself, to his credit. There are reports saying na Pretty Deadly, our friends, are showing up on SmackDown this Friday. So, sabi ni Emile, parang like a tag team not named the Usos, the Street Profits, or Sami and KO is dead in the water. I actually disagree when you bring in Pretty Deadly into the mix.
Pretty Deadly, okay. Kasi they have this fabulous gimmick and they really won me over the last year. So, I'm willing to give Pretty Deadly a chance. Pero I think, ito lang like prediction ko lang, they're gonna debut with new names on the main roster. Like, again? I'm pretty sure, new...
Again? Why?
I think so.
The reason why they were renamed in NXT, kasi they were preparing that for the main roster. Kasi they didn't want to use, or the management didn't want them to use their indie names.
Actually, Lewis Howley is his shoot name. I'm not sure about Sam Stoker.
Name,
like those are basically their shoot names.
Siguro, okay. I'll just sige, tingnan na natin sa SmackDown if they're still gonna be the Pretty Deadly.
All right, yeah. I'm excited for this. I would love to see Pretty Deadly on the main roster, more of the yes boy, more of the side plate check. I just need the tag team championships to be split for this to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
May rumors din daw na like Seth is gonna have his own stable and like they're gonna get these two to be stablemates. So
the Seth heads.
Or yung bagong disciples ni Seth Rollins, diba? Like, Monday Night Messiah disciple siya, diba? Ito bago naman. All right, let's finish up with some unfortunate injury news coming out of spring break-in. So it turns out there are 3 injured NXT wrestlers as of recording. So Indy Hartwell, nakita natin ng women's championship match. She landed very awkwardly on her right ankle during that Tiffany Stratton moonsault. And Brian Alvarez reports na yung finish daw for the match, pinalitan nila when they took Indy Hartwell out. They changed it to Tiffany Stratton. And then when Indy literally limped back and came to finish the match, they went back to the original intended finish, which was Indy retaining. On top of that, si Grayson Waller also reportedly injured. Sabi rin ni Brian Alvarez na injured daw during the rolling cutter, which is why medyo abrupt yung finish ng match nila ni Carmelo Hayes. And the third injury is Sol Ruca, which explains yung backstage attack ng NXT Anonymous vignette. So nobody likes these injuries. Very unfortunate timing, especially for Grayson Waller, who was one of the people that we speculated might get called up at the WWE draft.
Yeah, I guess that puts the kibosh on that plan, which is fine. I guess shit happens. Maybe they're not ready for it. I think what I said last week still rings true. There is still a bit of a glut of similar gimmicks on the main roster. So maybe it's an okay time to stay in NXT for our boy Grayson Waller. As an aside, it does prove MJF's point that even the smallest stuff can get you injured. Diba? So it's not just the high risk stuff.
Yeah. I'm really sad na Indy Hartwell got injured, but also kind of relieved she was able to finish the match. But I would hate if she would have to abdicate the championship just because she rolled her ankle the wrong way. Or it folded the wrong way, rather.
Yeah.
As someone who has had that happen to him, it does kind of fuck you up, even especially if it's worse than it intended. So I kind of understand, but I also understand how Indy was able to come back. Because sometimes you just fuck it up a little bit, and then you are okay enough to finish the match, and then after the match, it's gonna hurt a little more, but it's gonna get better eventually.
So sana ganun lang, lang. No. Emile, any thoughts on the NXT injury report?
I thought yung injury ni Indy was a work kasi the announcers were alluded to it, but
no, they cut away from Indy right after they showed the doctor standing to her.
Yeah, when she came back, like they alluded to it. So sana lang it's not severe na she's gonna be out for a long time. But yeah, she was able to finish the match, so that means na she's okay. Pero if yung injury niya is severe, then her going out again, that's pretty bad kasi that is a high risk, low reward move. Pero good thing na she's not that injured naman. So still congrats to Indy for retaining the women's title.
Yeah, Indy Hartwell also someone to watch heading into the WWE draft. Like we were kind of predicting that Tiffany Stratton would win the championship off of her so that Indy could be freed up heading into either Raw or SmackDown. But
yes,
I guess she's not rejoining the way just yet.
Yeah. So yun yung akala natin kasi there's already a program for her na naka-ready na when she goes up to the main roster with the way. So, but maybe she'll stay there for a few more months, and we'll see by SummerSlam she's gonna move up.
Or the draft could tell us otherwise this weekend, and we'd all just sound really stupid like everyone else on the internet.
I mean, I've been commenting. I've been analyzing and commenting on wrestling for more than 10 years now. I'm used to looking stupid.
Yeah. As am I. Not sure na about our two ASHs kung sanay pa kayo na having egg on your face.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. On that note, this ends the audio-only portion of the podcast. Keep those questions and those comments coming at Wrestling2XPod on Twitter and on TikTok. All right, let's talk about that surprise debut that we all got kanina on Dynamite. Roderick Strong came out to add to the babyface party that came to Adam Cole's aid. So it's Orange Cassidy and Bandido, and now Roderick Strong. So Adam Cole now has an undisputed ally back with him. Na-swerve tayo kasi, di ba, si Kyle O'Reilly yung tinweet ni Adam Cole this weekend. Last we checked, Roderick Strong was supposedly recovering from injury at the PC.
Yeah, it's funny. Nobody picked this up at all. So I assume there might be some controversial hijinks surrounding his contract status. Because not even the great Sean Ross Sapp was able to pick this one up from whatever source he has. So this is going to be interesting. Definitely out of left field. Nobody called it. So, akala talaga natin pinabili lang siya ng suka sa tindahan. Tapos, nandun na pala siya sa AEW, di ba? So, I'm all for this. It was definitely weird that Strong Roddy was the only guy left on Vince McMahon's NXT. And even though it has kind of veered back to its old self, I do think that he was there for too long, and I don't think he would have succeeded on the main roster without the rest of his guys, whether it's Undisputed Era or Diamond Mine, diba? So I think this is an okay move, especially when AEW doesn't have Bobby Fish or Kyle O'Reilly. So I am totally okay with this.
Ikaw, Emile, are you a big Roddy Strong guy?
Yes, of course. I'm like a big fan of the Undisputed Era, and I also like Roderick Strong because for me he's one of the best pure wrestlers that we had in the last 20 years, and he shook the system by surprising all of us. Na he's in AW na pala kasi the last time we saw him was he was injured and he was motivating the Creed brothers. The last time I saw him on TV, so I thought he was injured talaga, and he signed the extension right around nung patapos na yung kontrata nung other era guys. So I thought he was gonna be in NXT and even gonna be a coach in the PC for the long term, but whatever happened, and here he is. And like honestly, being a big Undisputed Era fan, I want a full era run in AEW, although I don't think that's going to be possible but I don't think they're going to bring back Bobby Fish, but who knows what happens. And plus, I think yung trio nila Cole, and if he comes back, Kyle O'Reilly and Roddy was the best version of that group. So I won't mind if they bring it back just for a bit when O'Reilly comes back.
Ano to? Undisputed Era versus Elite na?
It's great that you mentioned the Creed brothers stories. I was actually waiting for a resolution to that because they never really, never blew it up the way they should have. Like they were teasing, the turn, the big, is Roddy finally gonna snap on everyone and just kick ass? Even though he kind of did, it wasn't in that big way.
Yeah.
Si Damon Kemp lang yung nag-turn talaga. So yun ang pinakasayang. Even though I'm sure he wanted a better payday, a better environment. I really was excited for that resolution. Bruce is asking if Kyle is in AEW. Yes, sir.
Yes, he is
in AEW since they made the switch to NXT 2.0 back in 2021. So he's just been injured. They let Bobby Fish go. That Bobby Fish firing was a political thing, I will tell you, because he talked shit about Punk.
Going back to Roddy here, I'm sure naging factor din na his wife Marina Shafir is already with AEW. So I'm sure that made it easier for him to make the move, diba? So congrats to Roderick Strong. I'm glad na he seems to be in a better place physically and that he's able to wrestle again. So looking forward to seeing him back in the ring next week in that 8-man tag. All right, finally we're going to talk about MJF here because he tweeted something out. This happened about a couple of days ago, and he basically said that he doesn't want wrestlers to take all of these high risks in the ring. Babyface producer Jasper, let's pull up the screenshot of his tweet so our listeners and viewers can actually see it. So it's on your screens right now, and if you're listening to this on the audio-only version, you could probably find the screenshots online as I'm saying this. So I'm going to go to you first, Ro, because I'm sure you've got thoughts on this one, given that you yourself have stepped in the ring.
Yeah, he's not wrong. He is definitely not wrong. I do follow this philosophy as well. Lalo na dito sa Pilipinas where, unlike Japan, as Yappy told us,
wala tayong insurance premiums.
Walang legit insurance from the government. We don't get injury pay if or when we injure ourselves in the ring. So I totally understand this. I have actually, whether or consciously or unconsciously adjusted my own in-ring style to minimize risk, because at the end of the day, if you get hurt, it is really painful. It's not just painful, but it's also debilitating. And then you got to get it's not just debilitating physically, it's also debilitating financially, diba? So Maxwell is not wrong here, and when you hear it as well from people here in people in the business here in the Philippines, it's also not wrong, even though it does come off in bad taste. I understand why he deleted this. I would assume that he offended his colleagues who are, high risk, or, they
which is like 70% of the AEW roster.
Exactly. Yeah. I get it. But I do think that he is allowed to say it in character because his character is really more personality based than in ring based. So I thought that it would have been fair game for him to say in kayfabe, diba? Whether as compared to if you are a part of this business and you're saying it in your personal account and you're literally burying everyone who chooses to fly high, diba? And wow the crowd because of their through their high flying spots. Like that is a choice still, even though I don't agree with it, even though I do believe it's dangerous and sometimes unnecessary. It is still a choice that they're free to make. Kasi syempre, pera nila yan, katawan nila yan. As long as they don't kill anyone else in the process, or hurt anyone in the process, right? That's totally fine. It's just that as fans, I do hope that fans understand what he's trying to say, especially those who prefer and really love like the high flying acrobatic style, the high risk hardcore deathmatch style, even all of those things that are way more dangerous than your usual meat and potatoes technical or basic fundamental style. Diba? Yun lang naman ang gusto ko. I just wish that you understand it and you don't judge a wrestler's skill or lack thereof by what they do or don't do in the ring, because MJF is right. Everyone who said it is right. Even the smallest things, the tiniest bumps, even they hurt. And as I've seen with my own two eyes, even the most innocuous bump can break a bone. You know?
Ito, Ro, let me ask you a question. Kasi I deliberately went to you first because of the three of us. You're the one with the clear in-ring experience. So does someone like myself or does someone like Emile have a right to an opinion on what MJF said, given na we're not in-ring performers?
That's a good question. You cannot dispute the facts that he said. You can have an opinion, I guess. It doesn't always make it right, but you can't dispute the fact that the high risk stuff really is super dangerous, and that you can put on a good match, an entertaining match, an entertaining segment without having to go through all of these things. You can't have an opinion that says that this high flying, high risk stuff is still the spice of the sport. That's totally fine. I just said myself, it's okay. I'm not going to completely tell another wrestler to stop doing all of that. Because again, it's your money, it's your health insurance or lack thereof, it's your body. If you want to fuck around and find out, it's totally on you. Diba? Just don't hurt anyone else in the process.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yun lang naman. Kasi yun nga, Emile, I didn't go to you for a reason. Kasi ako, natatakot ako to give an opinion on a matter like this just because ano bang malay natin, di ba?
Yes.
I'm just here to enjoy wrestling, and however a worker decides to work is not something I feel I have a valid opinion on. In many ways, I actually am reminded of the Miz and Bryan debate from Talking Smack in 2016.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same thing. That was what Miz was pushing. Yung point to MJF, that was what he was trying to argue to Bryan, and that was what Bryan was trying to defend against Miz. There is unfortunately a lot of substance to both sides.
Yeah.
It's just that maybe the biggest conclusion I would hope is that we fans do not demand the highest of risks, or do not super glorify the highest of risks, like the really unnecessary, the really reckless stuff,
right?
Because we cannot be entertained by the simple or the basic looking stuff.
I remember when Cesaro and Charlotte were doing their press junket nung 2016 live event, I actually asked Cesaro about this kasi kaka-blow up lang nung Talking Smack episode na yun. And he answered it very diplomatically. Parang in a roundabout way, sinabi niya na different fans like different things in the same way na different wrestlers want to work different ways. So kanya-kanyang trip, wag na lang magbasagan ng trip. Parang ganon, if I remember correctly.
Pero it's like the Jeff Hardy thing. Like, yes, it's nice to see Jeff Hardy take his risks, be a daredevil, but at some point we gotta stop enabling the guy, from putting his body through all of that. Like, that's not healthy. That's not safe at a point, especially when he gets to a point where he is wasting his opportunities because he has to cope with the damage that he's dealt to himself.
Right. Question from Ina. Ro, baka gusto mo magpakilala.
Hi, I'm Ro Moran. I will get to that in our plugs later.
All right.
I promise you, I will get to that in our plugs later.
Okay. Emile, let's get to your plugs. Tell people where they can find your takes of you calling for Coach Bud's head.
You can follow me on TikTok at EML_Meister. I just post sports opinions there. Although I haven't, di pa ako gumagawa ng TikTok ng calling Coach Bud to be fired. But I did overreactively said on our Discord server earlier. So you can follow me on TikTok there for some sports takes. And also on Twitter at EML_Meister.
All right. Ro, the plug.
All right. There is no direct plug yet, but I am brewing something that I hope to announce in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that in my spaces, at my social media accounts, at Roaswar on Twitter, at shang.daddy on Instagram, and where I think Ina can find the answer to her burning question. So follow nyo na ako doon. And at shang.daddy on TikTok.
Okay. Ina, di ka namin ginagagawa. Just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
I'm just letting Ro answer the question himself.
Seryoso ako na mahahanap mo yung sagot mo sa Instagram ko.
Kaya naman sa comments, wag naman tayo magagawan. Ano ba? We're supposed to be a nice little community here.
Yeah.
All right. On my end, please go check out On Deck with Stancy. New episode featuring Nicole Hiala and Chris Truper dropped yesterday. Really proud of that episode kasi I was literally a fly on the wall just asking questions dito sa immortal na tambalan ni Nicole Hiala and Chris Truper. 19 years and counting, so go check that out. And then upcoming episode for next week naman features my great friend Indy O'Connor. She's changed her last name since getting married. She is probably most known for being Samantha on the Phone, or SOP, from the peak of Boys Night Out sa Magic. So go check out those episodes when you find them on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. As for us, we'll catch you again next week for our usual Pick of the Week episode. And for any and all questions, you know where to find us at Wrestling2X Pod on Twitter and Instagram, Twitter and TikTok rather. Facebook and Instagram, it's at Wrestling Podcast. And watch out because we did a photo shoot ng 9th anniversary. So finally, ma-update na natin yung cover art ng show. We can finally include Emile and Rowan in the cover art. So it took us a while, but we finally all got together.
I mean, mahirap mag-schedule ng just 5 guys, you know?
Yeah. Lalo na pag in-demand ka tulad ni Rowan ASH. Siya talaga pinaka-in-demand sa amin lahat.
Oh, actually. Then si Chino.
Then si Emile.
Yeah.
All right, on that note, thank you so much to everybody who joined us for a very lively Thursday live stream. Sobrang saya makita na nag-engage kayo lahat with the comments. Thank you to everybody who celebrated our 9th anniversary with us, to our sponsors, to the PNA staff and producers who helped us out with everything over the last week. Thank you to everyone who keeps sharing about the podcast. And we'll catch you next week for another episode. Again, Pick of the Week and the live stream Thursdays at 7 p.m. right here on Facebook and on YouTube. Follow us at Chino Supersized, at Monday Night Rowan, at EML_Meister, at Ro is War, and at _Stan C. On behalf of Emile ASH and Ro Moran, my name is Stan C, saying stay safe, stay healthy, and don't be a dick. Wrestling Podcast out. Bye-bye.
Peace.
The views and opinions expressed by the podcast creators, hosts, and guests do not necessarily reflect the official policy and position of Podcast Network Asia, the hosts of the program, or other programs of the network. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club,